Hi, boys and girls. This is Miss Franger. I have gotten a few questions about how to figure out a word problem using PEMDAS. Now, these are problems that we could solve on our own. Remember how we used to do the step one, step two, step three? But when you use PEMDAS, it's just asking you to put all the steps in one equation. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through that today. So like we always do, we always read our question 2 times. So I'm going to read it once and then I'm going to read it step by step. Mike and Olivia were comparing their Halloween candy. Mike received 4 times as much candy as Olivia received. Mike then split his candy evenly into 3 piles to eat later. If Olivia received 75 ounces of candy, how many ounces of candy would there be in each of Mike's piles? That's a lot of information, so we have to break it apart sentence by sentence so we can really understand what the question's asking us and the information given. Mike and Olivia were comparing their Halloween candy. Okay. Mike received 4 times as much candy as Olivia received. Okay, so in my note chart, I'm going to write M 4 times O because I'm gonna put A instead because O kind of looks like a 0. So I'm going to go based off of her last letter. So 4 times A, which stands for Olivia. Mike then split his candy evenly into 3 piles. All right, the word split makes me think of division. When I'm dividing up something, I'm splitting up things into piles or into groups. And Mike split this up into 3 piles to eat later. All right, so on my chart, I'm going to think to myself, okay, division, and I'm going to write Mike M divide into 3 piles. If Olivia received 75 ounces of candy, how many ounces of candy would be in each of Mike's piles? So that means this letter A equals 75. All right. Before I try and figure out what this equation's going to look like, I have to figure out what I need to find out. Just like in other problems that we have gone over, problems that have multi-steps also have more than one question. So I highlighted the question that's given to us, which is how many ounces of candy would be in each of Mike's piles. But there's a question that we need to figure out first. And that question is this one. We need to know how much Mike has altogether before we can even figure out how many he has in each of his piles. So I'm going to write both of these into my statement here. So the first step we're going to have to do is figure out how many ounces Mike has in total. And the second step will be what the actual question is, and that's how many ounces of candy would be in each of his piles. To draw a model could be a little tricky on this one, especially because the numbers are so big, because you do know you have to start with 4 times 75. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show it to you how we would have done it before we learned PEMDAS, okay? So step 1, we would have done 75 times 4 because that's going to tell us the total amount Mike has. So 5 times 4 is 20. Bring the 0 down. 2 up. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. So he has 300 ounces. It's a lot of candy. So we have 300 ounces, and the next step we needed to do was figure out M divided, or M, 300 ounces into 3. So we needed to divide that number, which is our step 2, because that will tell us how many are in each pile. So if I did 300 divided by 3, you could do this long division if you need to, but I know that I can just think, all right, if I take away my zeros for a second, I know that 3 divided by 3 equals 1, and then I'm going to add my zeros back. So I can say that there are 100 in each of his piles. I could also say, I know that 100 plus 100 plus 100 is 300. So each group has 100 inside it. You can also have that thinking as well. All right, so as I just showed you, I know it says draw a model. In cases like this, when we have the steps, if you know these processes, then you don't have to draw a model necessarily. You can just show the work that you would do. Okay, if you needed to show your groups, you could have showed them in this way. Whatever necessary strategy you feel works the best for you is okay here. Write an equation and solve a problem. This is where everyone's having some difficulty understanding how to take this and make it into a problem. Thinking about the first step that you guys did, we did 75 times 4 because Olivia had 75 ounces of candy. And we needed to figure out how much he had in total, and we knew that it was 4 times as much as Olivia. So your first part of your equation is going to be that first step. So you would do 75 times 4. Because that's your first step. Okay, if you wanted to, you could put it in parentheses because you know that you need to do this first in order to solve this problem. And so that's your first part of the problem. And you know in PEMDAS, the P comes first, which represents parentheses. So you need to make sure this is the problem that happens first. Then you would add your second step. So after you solved 75 times 4, you divided that by 3. Okay, so far you have 75 times 4, and then you're going to include the division of divided by 3. Okay? All right. So that would be your equation. And just like here, if we were to solve this, we would do 75 times 4 equals 300 divided by 3, and then you would get 100. So your answer would be, there would be 100 ounces of candy in each pile. I know that was a shorter version of a problem that some of the problems you're getting right now, but as long as you're taking it step by step and you're writing your questions down in the chart, you should be able to figure out what steps are most important to start first and which ones need to go in parentheses, and then what comes after that. All right? I know it can be really tricky, but if you use this chart and you use all the things that you've learned so far in 5th grade, you could definitely be able to figure it out. Okay, if you have any other questions, please reach out. Bye-bye.